in the history of Islam. And Andalus, Spain, was built on the model of Medina. And as long as their focus remained on Medina, they flourished. But when their focus turned toward the dunya, then that same progressive society sank, because the Muslims were not created for the dunya. The Muslims were not created for the dunya. The Muslims were created for the hereafter. We are Abdullah. We are the slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the highest status that we can reach is that we will remain the slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This very society, Spain, when their own people, their focus became the dunya, then every single person was concerned about himself. He was concerned about his own kursi. And the narrations mention that the rulers of Spain, what they would do, that the Muslims would actually make treaties with the Christians, and they would fight against their own Muslims. They would fight against their own Muslims. And really these were the Abu Righals of that time. And throughout history you will find Abu Righal. Do you know who Abu Righal was? Do you know who Abu Righal was? Abu Righal was a man who lived in Taif. And when Abraha, the Yemeni Christian governor, came to destroy the Kaaba, Abu Righal told him, look, I'll show you where the Kaaba is as long as you give me a few pounds. So Abraha agreed. When Abu Righal reached the outskirts of Makkah, he died. And what the Arabs would do, they would pelt his grave with stones, because he was a man who was ready to sell his religion and his people for $1 and a dime. And until today, the Arabs say, if they see a person of a deceptive nature, they say, "Huwa Abu Righal." He's Abu Righal. And these were the Abu Righals of that time. And one place after the other fell in Muslim Spain. One place after the other, until there was only one place left, and that was Granada. And Granada fell 50 years after the rest of Spain. Until Abu Muhammad, he drew a treaty with the Christians on the condition that he would allow them to take over, on the condition that they would not persecute the Muslims, that they would not forcefully convert the Muslims, that they would not remove the Muslims from their post. And when the Christians came in, the first thing they did, they reneged on their promise. And when they entered the Alhambra Palace, have you seen the Alhambra Palace? Wallahi, when you look at the Alhambra Palace, the eyes marvel at the architecture and artistry. It is an amazing palace, and throughout the palace you will see one word, La Ghaliba illallah. That dominance is only for the sake of Allah. Dominance is only for the sake of Allah. Where are those people who wrote La Ghaliba illallah? Where are those people? See, La Ghaliba, the engraving remained on the walls, but the reality of it was removed from their hearts. And the reality is that the Alhambra Palace, to a great degree, encompasses the decline of the Muslim Ummah, whilst the mud hut in which Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anh lived embodies the spirit of Islam. And really, when these Christians, they walked into the Alhambra, they found the highest place that they could find, and they erected a crucifix there. And when Abu Muhammad saw this, he began to cry. He began to cry, and his mother rebuked him. She said, "Why are you crying like a woman when you couldn't defend it like a man? Why are you crying like a woman when you couldn't defend it like a man?" And this is our state today, really. We whinge about everything. We blame everybody else besides ourselves. We blame the Christians, we blame the Jews, we blame everybody else. But it's one person we don't blame, it's us. We even blame time. The zamana yesaya. As the Arabic poet says, it's a na'ibu zamanana wal aibu fina wa ma li zamanina aibun siwana. He said, we find fault in time, but the reality is that the fault lies within us. And if there was any one fault in time, it is that it has to carry the likes of me and you. That's the only fault with time. So that's the first approach, that we have the lackadaisical approach. And then the fears are that we will assimilate into the community, we will be absorbed and we will be forgotten. لا تكونوا كالذين نسوا الله فأنساهم أنفسهم. Do not be like those who forgot Allah and Allah made them forget themselves. And the second approach is the approach that Musa alayhi salatu wasalam had. The approach of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam was that he would go to a man who regarded himself as Allah, Fir'aun, and he would go to him again and again because he had a concern for this man. And Allah mentioned in the Quran, he said, Musa, when you go to this man, speak to him gently. Allah knew that this man would never take guidance, but Allah wanted it as a lesson for humanity. And if there's any person who should understand, it's us, because we are the ummatis of who rahmatal lil alameen. We are the ummatis of a man sallallahu alayhi wasallam after who no other prophet will come. And therefore the duty of propagating this deen is upon our shoulders. And you look into the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, for 40 years, even before prophethood, the Prophet ﷺ won the hearts and the minds of the mushrikeen. And this is why when he stood up on the mountain of Safa and he said, if I was to tell you that there is a group, an army who are ready to attack you, would you believe me? And in one voice they all said, indeed we are ready to believe you, because we have always found you to be Ameen, we have always found you to be Sadiq. When the mushrikeen would have given an example of a person who had an upright character amongst them, they would say, look at Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And even then, with his upright character, they turned away. Even then, look at Nuh alayhi salam, 950 years, he was a Nabi, and Nabis are the best guys, and only a handful of people embrace Islam. And you look at our state, we want the dunya to convert, but look at ourselves, look at our state. We are regarded by the rest of humanity as the most self-righteous, self-conceited, whinging group of people on the face of this earth. Because we are always blaming other people for our decadence that we find ourselves in. And the reality is that we need to have a proactive approach. We need to put our energies back into society. We need to change ourselves. Because if we can't change ourselves, there's no way that we're going to revolutionize the dunya. You know, if you can't wake up for the Fajr namaz, then don't speak about revolutionizing the world, really. Because how is the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala going to descend upon a group of people? Look at our society. Wallahi, look at our society. That 90%, 80 or even 70, even 50% of our women don't even know the farz of ghusl. You expect the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to descend? We have sisters, we have cousins who don't even know the farz of Allah, of ghusl. They are mothers, they are wives. The whole life they go through it in a napak state. How do you expect the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to descend? The entire life they go through their life, and the only time they become pak is the day they die and they are given ghusl. And then you expect the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to descend? See, the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you must do as much as you can, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help descends. And you look into the life of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you will see this again and again and again, that he did as much as he could. And then the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descended. And understand that to call people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a difficult duty, and you will find obstacles. But if you remain steadfast, if you stand for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then your ajr is by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But you will find obstacles. The most beloved person to Fir'aun was who? It was Asiya alayhi salatu wasalam, his wife. When Asiya alayhi salatu wasalam saw the young child in the river, she asked Fir'aun to take this child into the palace. Although Fir'aun knew that this child may actually be a source of his destruction, but he still took the child in. He knew that this may be the very child he's trying to kill, but because of his love for Asiya alayhi salatu wasalam, he took her in. But when Fir'aun found out that his beloved wife had embraced Islam, then the same Fir'aun, he tied his wife to pillar, to post. And the narrations mention that he would knock huge nails into her feet and her hands, and he would say, renounce the religion and I will still forgive you. Renounce the religion. And she would say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. And then when he saw that he couldn't break her resolve, he told the soldier to bring a huge rock. And when she saw the rock, she made the dua which Allah records in the book. Until then, you will read this until the day of Qiyamah. He said, Rabbi ibni li indaka baytan fil jannah, wa najjini min Fir'aun wa amalihi, wa najjini min al-qawm al-zalimin. He said, oh Allah, make me a house in Jannah. Where? Make that house next to your house. Make that house next to your house in Jannah, and safeguard me from Fir'aun and his evil actions, and safeguard me from the Qawm al-Zalimin. And the narration mentioned that before the rock fell upon her body, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala extracted her ruh. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala extracted her ruh. So this is the approach that the Muslim should have, that you have a proactive and you do sabr upon the calamities, because our dar, our abode is the hereafter. This is what the Muslims aspire for. So the Prophet ﷺ said a time of fitna will come. So in this time of fitna, hold on to the book of Allah. فِيهِ نَبَأُ مَنْ كَانَ قَبْلَكُمْ. In it is the narratives of those who came before you.